So now we're getting to our keynote. Yes, very exciting. And I have to say that Mayim Bialik is a hero at my house. And if you have any teenagers at home, you probably know what I'm talking about. In fact, I just got my selfie, so I'm going to be a cool dad. Watching pretty much, growing up the last 6 years, watching her on TV in The Big Bang Theory has been, which has been by far their favorite show. I'm really serious about that. So introducing her and speaking with her today, we have someone you've seen many times now on this stage, someone who's a great leader and very inspiring leader, I would say, at She Knows Media. She happens to be a great supporter of women's rights herself, and you can tell with the passion that she shows on those topics. In fact, I think it's important to note that she founded the pitch idea that you've seen this morning, as well as others like Fermentizing Awards or Hatch Project, working with young kids. And she, as you probably noticed as well, tell it as it is. So please welcome our President and Chief Revenue Officer, Samantha Ski.
Guys, so again, hi. So Mayim is on her way up here, and so I'm going to start introducing her, and I might have to stretch my intro a little bit because she's probably like there right now and coming around backstage. So I'm so excited for the opportunity to interview Mayim Bialik, who you may know of if you guys have ever watched Beaches, the movie, or yeah, there's a supporter of Beaches over there, and they're coming out with a remake of Beaches, which if you didn't know that, that's used an extra 15 seconds for me to tell you, and then Blossom, and yes, oh my God, Blossom, right? And then Big Bang Theory, which is not a small show. So she's kind of had a dreamy, amazing, it looks like, life, but really does speak so honestly about her experiences, her trials, her successes, the whole thing, and has some amazing advice for entrepreneurs in particular and bloggers. So I think you're going to learn a ton from her. She's also a neuroscientist. I forgot that part. And a mom and an author. That's right. So she's an underachiever. And now we're waiting for Mayim to come out. We talked about her. Yay!
She blinded me with science.
I said all the good things already. Hi. I said all the good things. I want to talk into your She wants to talk to my chest. Okay, it's too exciting.
I'm sorry I'm late. I was doing other good things for She Knows upstairs.
Thank you, dude. We
Hi,
so
everybody.
appreciate it. All of your work. You have some, okay, so what's crazy is that I thought the fanship was going to mostly go towards Big Bang, but when I said Blossom, that's what happened when I said Blossom.
We all feel old now, that's right.
But we also discussed the whole neuroscience thing and the author thing and all of that. And I think everyone's really excited to hear from you, especially on Grok Nation, which if you guys don't know about this, this is Mayim's most recent amazing project that is almost a year old and is a fully loaded website. So what were your motivations to create Grok Nation?
Gosh. I don't want to say that I'm a reluctant creator of a website, but the notion of a celebrity website was honestly really scary to me because I don't really think of myself as a celebrity. I think of myself as a mom and as a scientist and as a person who's employed as an actor and is sometimes thrust into the public eye, but I don't think of myself as like, let's make a website about all the amazing things that I love. Like that's just not me. Mm-hmm. So I was writing for Kveller, which is a fantastic parenting website, and I had been writing for them for years, since before I got back into acting, since I was just a mom and not a celebrity. And I had really learned through the guidance at Kveller to sort of hone my voice as a writer and not be afraid to tell the truth. And in particular, not to be afraid to tell the truth about being a woman and about being a mom, and a frustrated one at that, as many of us are and are allowed to be. And I found that there were more things I wanted to talk about, and I found that starting my own website gave me the possibility of doing more kind of as my own entity and pulling in other writers as well. My motivation was also to create Grok Nation as a place that eventually would serve as a charity platform. You know, we said that we were a website for people who collect thoughts and not things. We're not a sponsored site. Thank you, you in particular. You know, we're not a sponsor. Like we don't talk about all the products that Mayim Bialik uses, and you know, sometimes I'll post things about things that I like or things in my life, but it's not because I'm being told to do that. And therefore, we're a different kind of site from a lot of celebrity sites, and I feel like I didn't need to be the Mayim Bialik version of Gwyneth Paltrow's site, because she's got that covered. You know, like she does it, and she does it great. And my life's not like that, and so I didn't want my site to be like that. So we're kind of a three-woman operation. Awesome. Esther Kostanowitz and Melissa Gruenfeld, the three of us, literally, bless you, the three of us. The three of us run the site, and I have a friend who is kind of my brand consultant. But like, we're a small operation of people writing what we hope are thoughtful articles about things a lot of people don't want to think about, but that we think that it would be great for people to think about.
Awesome. Well, so on that, and I noticed that you have some really powerful contributors, it seems, on the site. There's lots written by you, which is really very, very compelling, and sets, I think, a strong tone. And then it seems like there are some other provocateurs who you've found. How do you go about finding contributors, finding people you want to be representing Grok?
Well, you know, if I had a large collection of celebrity friends, I would ask them to write. But I don't have that collection, and I also didn't want it to be the kind of site where it was me collecting celebrities for you to read. But Ricky Lake and Abby just wrote a really amazing article about sweetening the pill and about birth control politics. And we're starting a new column that Avital, Mamafesto, Avital is doing about kind of, you know, the things you always wanted to ask about feminism. So we're getting writers who write other places who are interested in sharing on our platform. And honestly, it's kind of me and Esther, Esther Kostanowitz. We have a broad reach of people, and we've started taking submissions. But basically, we pour over them one by one. It's really us. Like, it's really me and her saying, this is an interesting perspective, or maybe this person could think about it deeply. We get a lot of new writers, which I love. We get women who have never written before who say, like, I have body image issues, and it's something I've always struggled with. I want to write about it. We love hearing that. Because we also feel like a lot of these shiny or sparkly sites, either celebrity or otherwise, have a lot of different restrictions and a lot of different rules. And I feel like everybody's got a voice. And you know, when we started this site, I kept being asked by marketing types, like, who's your demographic? And why are you talking about so many things? And I said, because I think about so many things, because I'm allowed. You know, and the notion was like, well, what are you? You know, are you a celebrity site? Are you a lifestyle site? And I said, how about I don't have to pick? I'm all of me, and I'm going to make a site about it. And so it's messy, and from a marketing perspective, which I'm sure everyone here knows more about than I do because I'm still learning, from a marketing perspective, I know it's not smart. It's not smart to cast that net, but it's like, that's who I am, and that's who a lot of our readers are. So that's what we do and kind of why we do it.
Awesome. That's really great, and you have a lot of support for that, I think, because many of our content creators that we collaborate with are likewise not going for a specific demographic, saying I'm a mommy blogger or I'm a business blogger. They're like, I'm a human, and I have many
I'm
different...
a human, and I made this site.
Right? And if you like my human, then you might enjoy my content. And so I think
that's a bumper sticker. If you like my human, you might enjoy my content.
Okay. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so how has Grok Nation evolved so far from its early days to just a year-old blog or a year-old site has a lot?
Yeah, I mean, I was really shocked that we were already at a year. You know, I don't pay attention. I hope this isn't a bad thing to say here. I don't pay attention to a lot of stats because that's not where my brain lives. Like I did stats in graduate school for a very discrete amount of time, and then I never wanted to think about it again. But there are people on our team who are trying to kind of track what people want and what they like, and sometimes what they don't. You know, I posted a piece that had originally been on Kveller about incest.
Okay,
and
awesome.
I remember when I posted that, I felt like if this gets one like from one person who needed to read that, then this was the right piece to post. And we got many more than that. And the woman whose speech it was reached out to me and said, I'm seeing so many comments. So that's kind of my feeling, is like, when I decide what content, or when Esther and I decide what content we want it to be meaningful to one person if it will help them and change their life and inspire them. So that's kind of how we do. When it started, I was the only one writing. I was really tired, as Kim Kardashian spoke about yesterday. It is exhausting to write lots of blogs. But we do have content from Kveller that we're also going to be able to repurpose, obviously with all copyright things covered. But there is still material that I think a lot of people haven't seen that I'd like to revisit, but we've added more contributors. We've done some merchandising stuff, which people seem to really like, and I think that's fun. That's not a huge venture, but it is enjoyable because it does spread the word and create kind of a community of Grokites. That's what we call them. And I'm trying to think what else. I'm starting my first kind of larger charity fundraising component for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I'm going to be raising money for their walk, and yay! And we're kind of rolling out, you know, our version of a larger charity campaign. It's not going to be like, come, you know, have champagne brunch with me and my celebrity friends, because that doesn't exist. But we do have a lot of fun things that I hope will inspire people to learn more about mental illness, and it's about a lot of. For me, those charity things are an opportunity to educate also. We have a lot of young readers and young writers who are just starting out. So, you know, our site is definitely still growing, and we're hoping to add more contributors. And I've been told our site could use a little lightening up, because I'm a little serious. So we're going to try it. I haven't known how to do that since I'm about 6 years old, but maybe with more people contributing to that venture, we can lighten me up a little. And I also did start doing YouTube videos.
I want to hear about the videos, because a lot of people are, I think, in our community are beginning their forays into video, and it can be daunting because video has changed, and what is it meant to look like? Should it be highly produced? Is it okay to just rock it on my phone? How did you approach video, which was a new form for you?
So Emmanuel Shalev, who's my close friend of mine and has been my consultant, he works for aleph-beta.org, but he's been kind of doing a lot of the managing. He's kind of the man on our team. He's been doing the managing of a lot of sort of decisions we make about how we go forward and how we can get more of Mayim Bialik to the people who, you know, might benefit from hearing from her. And so it was really his decision that we were going to start. We were inspired by John and Hank Green. You know, Blog Brothers is a wonderful model. It especially appeals to me because they are geeks, like I'm a geek, and they do a tremendous amount for charity. And a lot of what John and Hank Green is to inspire people to learn more and to do more and to be part of the larger universe that the internet allows us to be part of in an intelligent and thoughtful way. Like, that's important to me. So what we do with these videos is we take things that we hope are the most interesting to hear me speak about, and that's the model we use. I have a wall of nerdy tchotchkes behind me, and I learned to put on my own false eyelashes, because I noticed that makes a difference when you're filming videos, is false eyelashes. And, you know, I wear a different variety of actual geeky t-shirts that I own, and it's pretty much me. We do some, a friend of mine, Chad Jamian, who's a big Vine personality, and, you know, he's a different kind of video production. We would do stuff with an iPhone, and my shopping for Passover video with my children, which is like our most popular video, was actually just shot on an iPhone by Chad in a supermarket. So we do both. We don't use a super sophisticated set of equipment, and a phone can do it, but a lot of it is like simple things that I never knew how many chins I had until you hold the camera too low, right? It's like little things like false lashes and just like tilting that camera up, and like makes a world of difference.
Right, awesome. Okay, so back to the, so for Grok Nation's long-term consideration, which it doesn't sound like is necessarily where we're at right this minute, but would you be interested in monetizing and working with brands? I know that's not like your core, your approach right now.
Yeah.
How could you contemplate that?
I contemplated a lot, and when we first started, that was a big kind of conversation, because the first thing when you talk to any marketing or business person, I'm sure everybody here knows it, it's like, well, how are you gonna make money? And I feel really fortunate that I've been able to not have making money be what's driving this site for now. I know not everybody's in that position, and I don't begrudge people taking money or sponsorships or anything like that. But for me, I really wanted to let the site evolve as a thoughtful, kind of cerebral sort of place for ideas to live before I started thinking about that. And, again, it's like, this is in all caps. No disrespect to celebrities who do that. No disrespect to non-celebrities who do that. Everybody does what they need to do. But for me, it always feels like a little bit weird to consider, placing money where I wouldn't normally place it on my site, or placing ads or sponsorships. I honestly can say that I don't know what's gonna happen. And people get very upset if you do any sorts of posts that look like ads or anything like that, and I'm really careful. I'm really careful about what I put my name on and what I try and do. So, the kind of products, like I'm a, crunchy granola hippie mama, so like the kind of things and products that I'm interested in is like, this one lady who makes, I'm gonna say it, who makes washable sanitary napkins. She lives in Atlanta, like that's my woman, and like,
Go buy that once.
Exactly.
You only have to buy it once.
But like that's my feeling. Like, she makes an amazing product that I think is so interesting and important, but like that's not what sells ad space. But that's like whenever like my my big fancy agency is like, please send us a list of the products and companies that you most frequently use, and it's just like hippie, crunchy, hippie mama.
I like that, the hippie, crunchy mama.
And there are some exceptions, and I'm a vegan, so there are like vegan makeup companies that I really appreciate. Yay, shout out to the vegans. No, but I appreciate that there are makeup companies that produce high quality makeup that vegans can use. Like, so those things are important, but it's not like I have huge brands that like, it's like I even use a Droid. Like, I'm not even like a Mac person all the way.
I can't even take Apple
I know, it's like no one knows what to do with me is the story of my life.
Okay, so would you take, just for conversation, because I think
I can tell this is not a fun game we're about to play.
No, it's not a bad game. But many of the bloggers who we've collaborated with have a strong line between, like, I will only work with companies or products that I would actually use, versus those who want to pay me a lot for my reach. But they feel, not all, there is a strong sense that they as long as they can maintain authenticity and like true advocacy of like, I love this product. And I've seen some products that I think are more in the vegan zone for you, that that I think you probably mentioned more because you really, it was hard to find them, and then when you did.
Or I'm a modest dresser, and so like for modest workout clothes, there are companies that literally make like workout leggings with a little skirt attached, and like I think that's an amazing thing that exists, and so I don't get paid to post that, and of course your reps tell you if they're not paying you, don't post about it. But I honestly, like, I don't know that I want to live my life like that. Like, sometimes someone, like, sometimes someone will send me something that's so useful or interesting for my life or for my kids, and I think it's really nice to give that back. And I don't have the kind of reach. I didn't even know that you could have 78 million followers, which is what Kim Kardashian. Like, I didn't even know that's possible. So for me, like that I literally did. I'm like, aren't there that many people in the world? Like, that's so many people. So I don't have that kind of reach. And also, and I think this is something we may get into, like, much as many of you and maybe you and my beloved mother think that I'm like the most fantastic person.
You're fantastic.
No, I appreciate it, but the fact is, in terms of larger products and stuff, they go for the sparklier look, they go for the shinier lady, and that's fine.
She's very shiny.
Well, no, it's like I went from being an awkward child to an awkward teenager to an awkward public adult. It's the best way to be awkward. It's like just.
That's awesome.
So I'm realistic about that. Okay. And there are certain people who have amazing campaigns who I really respect, and there are people that I wish, like, my mother will say, like, why can't you be the face of Louis Vuitton? It's like, 'cause Mom, that's.
Oh, that's awesome.
I should keep a list of the people my mother says I'm #prettier than.
That's so good.
Yes.
That is why we love our moms. Okay, so that's awesome. And finally, just because I did read this, but I'm not sure everybody knows what Grok means
Right,
yeah.
so the Grok in Grok Nation is from Stranger in a Strange Land. It's a classic shout out for the sci-fi nerds. It's a science fiction novel written in the 60s, and to grok something means to understand it on a very, very deep level. It's not just understanding it deeply, it's making it part of you in a way that makes you want to be part of a nation of people who think that way. So that's why we named our site Grok Nation.
That's pretty beautiful. That's amazing. It's a really good name. Okay, so I'm switching gears a bit because Grok Nation, I think, is a nice summary of many, many things you do. This audience knows you well, but so they know that you're a scientist and a PhD in neuroscience, and they probably know that that is a pretty big part of some of the material you put out that is educated and underpinned with medical evidence, which I help is helpful.
Sometimes.
Thanks for that. But so STEM advocacy, why do you think it's important that kids, young people, or people who are not typically recruited by engineering be recruited by?
Well, I mean, I think, many of us recognize the importance of supporting science, technology, engineering, and math. Some of the fastest growing fields and career opportunities are in those fields. These are fields where I feel bad for this side of the room because I'm mostly this way, so I'm going to answer this question this way.
Go there.
No, but these are fields where these are fields where women are typically underrepresented, and there's a lot of interesting historical and sociological reasons for that. But, for me also as a public person and as a person who's chosen to see the world as a scientist, I love being a public face. I love putting a public face on the sciences. I worked with Texas Instruments for several years, really to try shout out to people who like Texas Instruments.
There's a fan.
The idea is to not make science sexy because honestly that kind, as the kind of feminist and scientist that I am, it kind of sometimes rubs me the wrong way.
Right.
The point is not to make science sexy, it's to make science for everyone, and it is for everyone. And I think in particular, for girls to see a female face publicly on the STEM fields is very important. I've always said that one of the most important things for getting young women and young girls interested in sciences is to show them people who live it and to show them what it looks like, and not just tell them, you can be a scientist too, because that's not enough information for a 5-year-old or a 15-year-old or a 25-year-old. You have to show them what life looks like, who are the people, who are the faces of women who are scientists. So I'm grateful to be just one of them, and one of the things I get to do is to meet other amazing men and women who dedicate their lives to do this. Yeah, a couple men. No, but I do meet in particular a lot of women, and to me, like, those are the inspiring women. Those are the women who broke down gender barriers, color barriers at the time that they were just entering these fields. So that's amazing to be part of that. And I was educated at a fine public university. I'm a proud Bruin, and I was taught at UCLA how to keep going when you are one of the only females in many of your classes.
Well, so that leads. I'm jumping from there because the Geek Lab.
I'm about so many things.
You are so diverse. So I think that your interest in science and your advocacy for science, it's kind of amazing that you play Amy on Big Bang Theory because that character is so awesome and interesting, but also seems so free-based from your own brain or which is probably a reduction, so sorry. I'm sure there's other things in there. But how did that happen? How did this character that also appears to advance some of the things you think are important socially, who gets that opportunity? How does that happen?
I was on Blossom when I was 14 to 19, and then I took 12 years off from acting. So I got my PhD, I had my first son in grad school, he's now almost 11, and I had my second son just after getting my doctorate. I took my hood 8 months pregnant. I was that lady.
Awesome.
My life as a scientist looked like I was teaching. I taught neuroscience in the homeschool community. I taught junior high and high school for about 5 years after getting my degree. Then I returned to acting because, true story, running out of health insurance and needed to, once you're a grad student and you leave your department, at some point they cut you off. And so I figured, I've never really acted as an adult, and I auditioned for The Big Bang Theory. I had never seen it. I had heard about it and thought it was a game show because someone told me I was mentioned on it. Like, I think in the first season, I thought it was a game show, and my manager was like, why do I represent you? You don't know anything, and you don't watch TV. So when I went to audition, on my resume, like my acting resume, under miscellany, it said like, speak Spanish, Hebrew, Yiddish, PhD in neuroscience. Because I felt like it should go on a resume. Like, I worked 7 years for that. It's going on my resume. So Bill Prady, who created The Big Bang Theory, was at my audition, and he's like, is this for real? I was like, yeah. It's so funny. My character, we didn't know much about her. I was cast in the season finale of season 3. I was made a regular in season 4. Bill Prady somewhere was quoted as saying, we made her a neurobiologist because we figured Mayim could fix things if they're wrong. But many of our writers are, besides being highly intelligent, many of them are also science related or coupled with people who are in the science field. So, any good actor has to pretend to be what they're not.
Right.
So I actually feel like they must not have thought very much of me.
They're like, she can do this one.
She'll just play a neuroscientist. So it's a very happy coincidence, but all of the other actors on our show who do a tremendous job pretending to be physicists,
But they're not,
engineers,
right?
they are
Those
not.
guys are not.
They're just normal actors, right? They're normal actors. So but Jim Parsons once said, I'm the only one on the cast who knows what everyone's lines mean,
That's
not
amazing.
just mine.
That's amazing.
It's not always true, but sometimes.
That's pretty cool. That's just so exciting and amazing. And so how are you different than Amy?
I have people tell me what to wear, whereas Amy does that all by herself.
Okay.
Amy is actually based on a couple female professors in my life, and there's a church lady quality to her. If anyone was a fan of SNL.
Yeah.
And there are things that are similar to me in terms of her social awkwardness and her directness and her logical, rational brain. And I'm definitely a socially awkward person. I was as a child and continue to be as an adult. But it's kind of hard. Like, I'm a fleshed out person. You see me operate in ways that we don't get to see Amy. I was a late bloomer, and that's actually something I've really enjoyed depicting on our show. I really like the innocence of her relationship with Sheldon. So yeah. But I know not to wear stripes and plaits.
Okay, that's the big difference.
I had to pay someone to tell me not to do that.
And why do you think the show resonates so much, given that it's how many people are Big Bang watchers? Okay, awesome. So it's not your typical, the heroes are different. They're maybe harder to reach or harder to access. It's really unlike most sitcoms.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching shows where, different groups of attractive people hooked up in different permutations.
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
That's like what I was raised on, and no wonder I didn't feel like I was fitting in, because that was not my life. But our show is a show about how the other half lives. Our show is about outsiders, and it's about underdogs. It's about people who, by modern standards, if they were 10 or 20 years younger, would receive a diagnosis and medication and therapy.
Right.
But our characters, we don't talk about changing these characters. We talk about that there are ways that we wish they would change, and everybody's trying to live around everyone else's, spectrum-y tendencies in some cases. But our show is a show about people who are different, and everyone has that experience.
Yep.
I mean, it's true. Even the most attractive and popular among us know what that feels like. And so our show seems to have struck that kind of chord of, this is what it feels like to be left out and to still try and make it work anyway.
That's amazing. So it sounds like it's more than half who of us identify with that feeling of not fitting in or not saying the perfect line, and as evidenced by your Emmy and the success
I
of the
didn't
show.
win one, but I've been nominated.
It was okay.
Just for clarity.
I didn't know that.
I don't want to. I'd be like, Mayim won an Emmy, and no one
She did
knew.
just now. I gave it to her. Okay. It was okay. So that's. Could you play a character you didn't like? Just having seen many of your characters as awesome young women who are.
Yes, I think as an actor, the answer has to be yes.
Right.
I can play who I'm told to play. I think that part of pretending to be someone else, which is what we are paid to do, is about finding something that is accessible.
Right.
in those characters, I was actually told as a writing exercise to write from the perspective of someone I disagree with, you know, and I thought like that's very interesting, but when you get characters that are unlike you that way, that's kind of what it's like. I think that because I'm a character actress, which is what we're called when we are this, because I'm a character actress, because of honestly my voice, the way I look, the way I am, I'm typically going to be given characters that are quirky or that are quirky or unusual in some way. The only time I've ever played like really nasty villains was when I did voiceover work. I would often, because of my scratchy raspiness, I would be cast to play the bully, you know, in a lot of like animation stuff. So that was the only time I had to be a really mean person. Otherwise, I get more generically kind of quirky, offbeat. You know, I could be someone's romantic lead maybe someday. We'll see.
Totally, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially if it's Sheldon. So, it seems like all of these different activities and engagements we're talking about do kind of weave together into some kind of not higher purpose like God. You asked earlier. I'm not referring to the Lord, but a more macro theory or a more some kind of meaning that you've been able to derive and express through your work. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Yeah. It's funny because when I have an assistant, his name's Todd, and when I met Todd, we've been working together about, I don't know, 9 months, something like that. And he said that when he found out that he was going to meet to possibly be my assistant, like, you know, he did some research and he asked around-ish. And he said that he was really excited to work with me. I hope this is still true. He said that he was excited to work with me because he heard that I'm a good person.
Aww,
and I was like,
word.
And I don't tell you that so that everyone in this room thinks that I'm a good person. What I mean is that, like, it didn't occur to me that the things that I do become your reputation or who you are. And it really touched me because I might get a little emotional because
do it.
No, because it because it is a source of specialness for me because, you know, 3 of my 4 grandparents were immigrants and they came to this country at a horrible time in history. And my parents were raised, you know, my mom was raised really poor in the Bronx. My parents were born during the war and like, it was a mess. Like being an immigrant child at that time for my parents was really, really messy. And I was raised, you know, like just like a, you know, poor kid. Like, I mean, I was just like you know, I lived in a rented house till I was 15 and we had 1 bathroom and like we never went out to eat and like that was my life and it wasn't bad. There are people with it far worse than me. I don't mean to say that I had it really bad, but what I mean is like life is amazing where it can take you. Yeah. And I was like just a kid who liked being in school plays. I liked that attention. I liked how it felt to be on stage. And to become an actor and get your own TV show when that's not really what you thought it meant when you said, I like acting, I want to be an actor. Like, that's unbelievable to me. And so for me, where this all leads is I wasn't put on this earth to win an Emmy. That's not what God put me here for. It's not why I'm here. So what are the things that we're all here for? How do we reach people? What does it mean to have a platform? What does it mean to be able to publish articles about things that are important and that impact people? What does it mean to be a positive role model? What does that even mean that girls look at me and say, I could be a scientist or whatever? Like, that's profound to me. So the reason that I do what I do is literally to find my purpose on this earth. And it's not to look pretty on a carpet. It's not to learn how to put on false lashes, although I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I can do that. But to be able to spread information about things that are valuable, and I don't just mean from a liberal perspective, because I'm a known liberal, but I'm also a social conservative, but I don't mean that my goal is to make everyone like me. And meaning I want everyone to like me, that's why I'm an actor. But I mean, I don't mean everyone has to be like me. Right. And I try and be consistent about that. I breastfed my kids a long time. That's not for everyone. It's not the only way. I'm vegan. That's not the only way. It's not for everyone. I support Hillary. That may not be for everyone.
Yes, it is! And there's the exit if it's not.
No, but
Just kidding.
no, but in all seriousness, we have an opportunity because of the internet. We have an opportunity because the world gets really, really big and it gets really, really small with every year that goes on. Yeah. So that's the kind of like bigger picture.
That's the macro.
That's the bigger picture of like everyone's got a purpose to be here, and I'm certain that everything my grandparents struggled through and everything my parents struggled through and everything I struggled through was not so that I can hold up a trophy, which I would love someday to get, but that's not what, I don't wake up every morning like that. I wake up every morning like, what do my kids need? Who needs to be fed? Have I given enough of myself? Have I been present enough? How long have I been on my phone when my kids are sitting there waiting for me? Like, those are the things that I have to think about. Who are the people I touch? You know, I'm really blessed, like, you know, I'm blessed to have a publicist. Her name's Heather Weiss, and she's sitting right there.
Oh, I love Heather. What's up, Heather?
I'm blessed to work with people, and we have a group of women in my circle, and my manager is Tiffany Kuzan. Like, we have a group of people where we know what matters ultimately. We know how to prioritize. We get things done. That's how we do. Like, we have a group of women that really, like, we run the machine that looks like this, but is so many other people doing their job, trying to find things that are purposeful, always looking for charity opportunities, like always looking for those things. Those are the people that I've chosen to surround myself with. And I guess that's why Todd is part of the team too.
Todd. Where's Todd?
He's not here today.
Well, that's amazing, and definitely speaks to kind of, I think, the aura that we're getting, or that is so compelling about your work, is that it feels authentic. Not that work that you don't agree with can't be authentic also, but I think it's a unique position that you're in.
Yeah, and just like a small example, I remember, you know, we have a social media lady who's been trying to kind of like help Grok Nation look a little more like other sites in terms of like posting happy quotes and like, you know, things like I'm trying to come into the 21st century. And there was there's all these like national days, like whatever, it was chocolate chip cookie day on Thursday. And so she has me try and like for things that relate to me or are interesting. So she sends me a list of what are the national days, and there was a no makeup day. And she said, you know, she's like, oh, everybody's going to be all over and I'm like, it's like every day it's no makeup day. I said, I could take a picture every day of the year, and most days I will not be wearing makeup. So it was so much fun to like, you know, like I don't need a filter. Like I always look like that. So, but I think that's important though when you talk about authenticity. Like I don't consciously think like, am I being authentic? I literally, I do my things, I do my life, and I share it where I think it's appropriate or interesting, but it's not my job to vomit on all of you every single thought that runs through my head, you know? Anyway.
No, that's awesome. Get it? Glad it's not the job to vomit on us. So in that realm, it's clear that you've been an amazing example, I think, for women and for girls, but also for entertainment executives and for all of the people who are trying to make Hollywood and the media more equal, fair, awesome, all those things. So, so that's evident. In your own home, how do you have two sons? Raising kids is hard, messy, fun, amazing, rewarding, all those things. And how do you raise good boys? And I'm sort of using good to indicate maybe they're feminists, but they don't have to be.
Yeah. No, to me, you know, raising children is an equal opportunity feminist experience. And I think that, you know, the notion that the feminist movement has been powered primarily by women makes complete sense. But to me, exploring all of the inequalities, the injustices that we see, not only for men versus women, but for people of color, for people of different gender identities, like that's what the academic feminist movement was about. It was about women bringing a unique sensibility to empowering people regardless of race, class, or gender. That's feminism, you know?
Word, get that out there.
So to me, it's as important to point out to my children that the people who work in hotels, restaurants, facilities we go to, those people are people of value and deserve to be addressed. And you know, this is one of the things that, to me, like, that's a feminist statement, to be sensitive to race, class, and gender. And so, to me, like, that's how we live our lives. And I'm grateful that their dad is a feminist, and he's an academically oriented feminist. You know, what that means is exploring all of the confusing things that we see in the media. And, you know, it's funny because I posted, this is when I was writing for Kveller, I posted an article, you know, my son saw a poster of Ariana Grande, who's a very talented lady. I sing along to her songs on the radio. But in this particular billboard, she was in her underwear. And my son, who I think was maybe 7 at the time, said, "Mama, why is that woman in her underwear?" And it's funny because this got such hatred, and people were like, "You're such a skinny shamer, slut." I was shaming everything about her without even knowing it. And what my point was about this was that that's how pervasive it is. You know, a child knows, why is that woman in her underwear, you know? And we talked about it, and I said, well, she's a singer. He said, if she's a singer, why is she in her underwear?
She can afford pants. Can she afford pants? That's what he was wondering.
It was just, so things like that, you know, those conversations are conversations that I do have with my children, and I don't want them to grow up afraid of women's bodies, afraid of anybody's body, but I'm very, very specific. I tend to be on the conservative side with age-appropriate information. Their dad and I are very careful and protective about what they watch. I don't own television to watch it, so I don't have to deal with a lot of the ads and stuff like that. But they see it, and we have those conversations. But a lot of it, to me, is about fleshing out those stereotypes. What does it mean when we're told that boys don't cry? You know, what does that mean and why? And how do we process emotions? And for me, you know, I really wanted to raise boys who were freely crying at the drop of a hat, and lo and behold, there is something to either personalities and also to gender. I mean, I'm a scientist, I understand how brains work, and male and female brains are different. Sometimes they literally don't want to talk and they don't want to cry it out, and I've had to learn to back off on that too, because they are allowed to have an experience that's specific to them, and girls are as well.
Awesome. So on the parenting topic, we were discussing earlier sort of the revels of parenting, which we all like to share, but it might even be more instructive sometimes to share our parenting failures or moments of, as our team is super stoked about failure, just embracing it and talking about the hashtag fail experiences that lead to success and that lead to confidence. And it's something our editorial team is really impassioned about, because we think that sharing stories of failure will make us far less fearful of them. And the fails are really not true failure, they're experiences, and it's what you do with them. But so, any hashtag fail parenting stories?
So many, we could be here all day. Yeah, it's interesting because when we talked about what to talk about, you know, I have a lot of amazing moments with my kids where I feel like, oh, mama, you got it. Like that one you got. Or when you sense that they're about to cry and you don't lead the witness, but you give that opportunity for them to express something they wouldn't, like, oh, I'm so glad I could do that. I have those moments, but I also have a lot of really, really bad moments. And, you know, the experience of being a parent, especially if you are a professional woman, especially if you are a woman who's trying to be out in the world in ways besides just being a mom, there's a lot of conflict that comes up. And we had an experience recently which was really horrible, and you asked me to share it, and I will.
It's so good.
It's bad, but it's also good. It could have been worse. Right? It could have been worse. No one got hit. I don't hit, and that wasn't a first day for hitting someone, so that's a good thing. I was driving back from visiting my ex-mother-in-law, but she's still my mother-in-law. I had taken the kids to visit, and we were driving down the 5. And as vegans, there's not a lot of places to eat along the 5 freeway between San Jose and Los Angeles. But I saw that there was can I say the chain? Is that okay?
Sure,
okay,
why not?
It was a Baja Fresh, and if beans are vegetarian, if you put them with some rice and you put them in a tortilla, my children are almost always happy. So I figured, let's mix it up. Usually we there's vegan burgers at places like Denny's, certain Denny's, but I was like, we're gonna have burritos. Seemed like a great idea. So we go, and it turned out that it was near the state prison, was this exit. So there was a very urban quality to this Baja Fresh, and to the supermarket, to the supermarket that was attached to it. And, you know, I grew up in LA, spent a lot of time in Manhattan, like, I have no problem with all sorts of people, like, it's fine. But my children are more cloistered, suburban Los Angeles kids, and a lot of things went wrong that led to my terrible parenting moment. And one of them, which was very prominent, was that there was a TV screen on, and the show Cops was on, and there was a very, very graphic, very disturbing image, and I literally didn't know that my son was seeing this, meaning I walked in and the screen was behind me, and it took a second, and I looked up, and I saw his face, and his face just fell. It was something really bloody and horrible, and I'm thinking, why do they have this on? There's children eating at this restaurant. It was just like everything wasn't working. So I ordered, and I speak Spanish. I ordered in Spanish because everybody there was speaking Spanish, and like I realized that I should have given my kids a heads up because they didn't know what I was saying, and like it just all signs were leading to they're not going to eat these burritos. I'm sure you can feel that. So I ordered the burritos. It's literally the same beans and rice that they've eaten at every taco place and every burrito place we've ever gone to. But we sit down, they will not eat their burritos. Like, they take a bite and they just look nauseous. And looking back, like, it's the mama retrospect brain that doesn't work when you're just like at that level and we've got to eat and get back on the road and the burritos were more expensive than they should be. You better eat them is what I'm thinking. Like, looking back, the image that my older son saw of a really, really bloody, beat-up person was enough to turn his stomach, and I didn't process that fully. And what I said to them was a terrible thing. I said, do you only eat burritos in white suburban Baja Freshes?
And she ate her whole burrito and just stared them down.
And I sat there, and I ate that burrito, and I enjoyed it, and I said, this is delicious. And they did not eat the burrito. I offered to take it home. And they both said, no. And they both got in the car. We're just not hungry, Mama. I was like, that's not even true. Like, it was literally like, hashtag over. It was over. And they like, you know, they didn't even want to say that they were hungry for the rest of the 3-hour ride. But I kept offering snacks. I was not punitive about it. They had a granola bar. Everything was fine. But the learning moment was when my blood pressure had lowered, because I'm very sensitive to realizing, like, when you get ragey and you get to that point, like it's a neurological, biological train. And once it stopped, I was able to do what I have been taught to do. I did the quality parenting program and bringing out the best in your child and your family. And what it taught me to do is to always say you're sorry. It is never too late. And I did it. I said, you know what? When I had calmed down, I said, it was wrong of Mama to say that mean thing about white suburban Baja Fresh. And I said, there was a lot going on. The images you saw on the screen were scary, and it was a lot of things you weren't used to, and Mama was speaking Spanish, which you're not used to hearing. There was a lot of confusing things that were different from the way we normally do it, and I'm sorry. And it goes so far, because otherwise you hold it in, you feel guilty, then you feel more entitled to try and be lenient when maybe you shouldn't be. So like, that was really like, that to me, that was the learning moment, is like, I can still apologize. I will never go to that rest stop again. The other learning moment.
So I think what we love about that story, and the reason we pressured you to tell it, I'm getting more water, is that we at Chinos and BlogHer love the idea of the moments of fail, the moments of rage, the moments when you behave badly, and you know it, and instead of jumping on the defensive and like escalating it, which is what I do, instead of doing that, you can put it out there. Like, here's this thing I did, whoops, and what did I learn from that? And the fact that you go is so lovely, that you often seem to go from moment of recognition through to the learning that you can share with other people. So on that, and on the point of sharing with other people, the last couple of books you've done, I benefited from tremendously, because there were areas I didn't know anything about. I didn't know much about veganism. I still am learning about parenting all the time and contemplating different inputs and feedback and advice. What do you think? Because when you fall on a topic, it's like magical, because it gets the science brain, it gets the mom brain, or the human brain, or the feminist brain, and it all seems to like coalesce to produce something really interesting in terms of content, which I'm sure will take a digital form and possibly a book form. What do you think the next thing you're going to fall on?
So yeah, I was actually hoping that the contract would be finalized so that I could announce it here. So I'll give a healthy tease, and please visit Grok Nation, because we will reveal hopefully in the next coming weeks. So I get asked to put my face on a lot of things, in particular, like, do a science book for girls, do a this for, and I've waited I've really held out for what felt like a really great way to utilize all of those parts of my brain, the feminist, the scientist, the mom, the sort of like amateur psychologist and, you know, product of therapy. So that's what I am going to be revealing. I'm working on a book. It will be targeted for girls, for young girls and young women.
Exciting.
And I really wanted this to be the audience that I could share it with first, but like I said,
Everyone who registers on Grok can probably get it.
Yes,
That's how we do it.
We will be
That's how we do
revealing
in
all the
marketing.
information. Yeah, and it's really exciting. It's exciting to put all of my brain into something that is all of me. And again, I was asked, "What's the focus of this book?" And I said, "How about just existing, right? Like this is what it is." So that's
I'm a human who makes content.
I am a human, and if you like this human, you may like the content. That's right.
Okay, well, we are hot out of time, but is there anything else you want to tell these people?
No, I mean, I'm really honored to be here. You know, there's such an impressive group of women here, and you've had such an impressive group of people to sit on these stages for this conference. But I really, I tip my hat to all of you who are spending your time here, learning from other women and sharing. And I'm really grateful to be here. So thank you.
Thank you so much. You're a huge favorite and popular. You're very popular.